I am begging woke people to stop posting on the internet. I just don't know how much more of this I can take. All right, guys, welcome back to another bonus video where we're going to be going over the most unhinged woke posts from this week on the internet because I saw them and I had to suffer, so you do too. Up first, this post comes to us courtesy of Blue Sky, the new progressive Twitter alternative, because of course it does. Some guy says, the only difference between ISIS and MAGA is the clothing. I can think of a couple other differences, actually.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
Though, I guess I'll give you that the clothing is different, but a little bit more than that is also different. I don't remember MAGA killing people and wanting to destroy America and murder as many innocent civilians as possible, but maybe I missed something. Maybe I just missed that Trump tweet. I get actually, though, joking aside, that's so offensive and ridiculous. So many of my loved ones are MAGA, they voted for Trump, and I might not agree with them on all the issues, but to suggest they're similar to ISIS is completely unhinged and really nasty and evil. People like this need to touch grass, go for a walk, meet your neighbor who, yes, may have voted for Trump. If you do that and you still think that he's the same thing as ISIS, you actually need to seek psychiatric help because you're hallucinating. There's no other explanation. This next one is a new level of Delulu. So somebody wrote, black men are not remotely as violent as white men. We'll come back to that. She continued, they're not even as violent as white women as a demographic.
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Now, I don't like playing this game at all about talking about which demographics do more bad things because I view everyone as individuals, and whether you're black or white or a man or a woman, you're only responsible for you and your actions, whether you commit crimes, whether you hurt people, the demographics of which group, it's all very collectivist to me. I'm an individualist. I don't care so much. If an individual person is a criminal, is violent and hurt somebody, they should be locked up and put away. And I want nothing to do with them. I don't support them. If it's a man, which just statistically it will be most of the time, then so be it. If it's more of one racial group than the other, so be it. That's just how the cookie crumbles. And I'm not going to deny facts to push certain narratives, which is what this person is doing, but I'm also not going to judge individuals because of group trends or anything like that. That gets dicey real quick. But if you are going to play this game and you are going to start talking about groups in this way, which, like I said, I don't like to do, you should at least have some factual basis to it. And claiming that white women are more violent than black men is anti-reality, just because statistically speaking, almost all violent crimes are done by men. So any group of men is going to be more violent than any group of women. And then within racial groups, there are differences in crime statistics you can look at. It gets complicated as to why that is. And I certainly don't believe any group is inherently more violent than the other in terms of genetics or anything like that. Absolutely not. But it doesn't go in the direction this person says. This tweet is anti-reality. Sorry. As was this next tweet from a trans woman who's trying to reassure us that trans women are not a threat. J.K. Rowling had tweeted, where's the evidence that trans-identified men are ever harm women? And by trans-identified men, J.K. is referring to trans women. And then goes on this thread. To which Jenna, a trans woman, presumably based on Jenna's profile, wrote, may 2025 be the year we snuff out the Nazi ideology that is transphobia and shun Nazi turf shitbags like you from civil society. Eat my vagina, Nazi freak. That's not very ladylike, if you ask me. Not a very ladylike thing to post on the internet.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
But also, if you're responding to a liberal feminist who believes that trans women are a threat to women, and you respond in this unhinged, aggressive manner as a trans woman, you're not helping your cause. And if you can't see that, you might need to get your contact lenses adjusted. Another account posted, I do not only hate men, but also boys. The idea of an innocent male child is yet another patriarchal lie. These soulless monsters have evolved to rape and kill before they can even read or write, broods in them a taste for a mindless and misogynistic violence. Girl, are you okay?
Call the police.
Like, I almost feel bad for a person like this because only some truly horrific personal experiences or trauma could warp someone's perspective, because what they just said about men is not true. Not my experience, not of many men. And like, again, if you find yourself condemning people, entire groups of people based on their immutable traits, you're not the good guy. But my heart does go out to you, because people don't get broken like that broken just cause. I think something must have happened there. So thoughts and prayers on that front. Another woke person wrote, hate speech is not free speech, and misinformation that targets and impacts minority groups cannot go unchallenged. Nobody has the right to say what they want with impunity. I mean, at some point, just say, I'm a coward and I'm afraid to argue for my opinions, and go. Because that's what you really mean here. Hate speech is definitionally free speech, both as a legal and a cultural and societal question, because there's no real definition of hate speech from which you could carve out any sort of exception. It is just speech some people hate. And guess what, my dude? A lot of people hate your speech. A lot of people aren't fans of it, but it's still free speech, and you still have the right to express it. And nobody's saying that speech that's hateful or targets people can't go unchallenged. We're saying you can't censor it. You can't delete it from the internet. You can't have the government arrest people for it like they do in your dystopian country in the UK. I think this person's British. You can challenge it by disagreeing with it, by arguing with them, by debunking them, by winning a debate. But I think you're afraid to do that because you know that most of your ideas suck and people won't be convinced by arguments for them. That's the real admission that I get from takes like this. This next woman wrote, sex is definitely a networking tool, and more women need to start using it as such.
Excuse me, what?
What line of work are you in? Because I feel like this is mostly not true unless you're in a very specific line of work.
I'm a ratchet whore.
And I maybe there's some women for whom they can just have casual sex, no biggie, it doesn't affect them at all. I don't think that's true for most women. I don't even that I think it's true for most men, but it's probably true for more men, I guess. But it's not true for most women. And so you're actually suggesting that people do something that will have emotional harm to them, most likely. And that's actually not good. Also, I just struggle to imagine this as a successful networking tactic. Like, whatever happened to go into happy hours? Like, that's what we used to do in DC when I was fresh out of college. We'd go to like events in our industry and happy hours to get cheap food or free food if organizations were running them, and you'd meet people and you'd network. We somehow got along fine without taking this person's advice. So I would recommend you also not take it. Another person wrote, obesity prevention is unethical. We need an end to fat phobia, not an end to fatness. The science is not sciencing here. Obesity is a health condition that can be deadly. This is like saying we don't need an end to cancer. We need an end to cancer, the fear of cancer. It's actually insane and not kind, not compassionate, not ethical, not any of these things to want to normalize and promote and encourage people to remain obese. We shouldn't be mean to them or cruel, because that, one, is unkind, and two, doesn't usually help. But we should want people to get better so they can live longer and healthier lives. And if you're saying that makes me a bigot, then I'm not going to do the thing where, oh my God, you called me a bigot. No, I don't want to be a bigot. I changed my opinion. No, I'll just be a bigot then. I'll be a bigot. If that's what you're saying, that wanting people to be healthy makes me a bigot, then I'll just embrace the label. I now identify as bigot. My pronouns are bi/git. Okay? if that's what you want to do, if that's the game you want to play, let's play. Let's play. This next post is from another trans activist on Twitter. One thing I hate about Christmas is it just feels like patriotism? ? Like it just feels like some pro-America bullshit. I have questions. First, does this person know that Christmas is celebrated in other places too, right? Not just America. And also, why is being pro-America so bad? Like the worst thing. Like our country is not perfect, but it is pretty amazing and pretty free in most respects. A lot of countries, you're not free to trash your own country like this on the internet, actually. And maybe you should take note of that and factor it into your viewpoint on the nation that gives you that freedom and that opportunity. But I also just don't necessarily agree that the way we celebrate Christmas in America is about pro-America patriotism. I feel like it's about a lot of things. For some people, it's about faith. For some people, it's about family. For some people, it's about like materialism and consumerism. But I don't really get it being like a patriotic propaganda event or anything like that. Am I missing something? Y'all let me know, okay? This next person responded to the news where Mark Zuckerberg says Instagram and Facebook will now prioritize free speech and wrote, "It's terrifying that we're watching 1984 in real time unfold before our eyes." You might need to reread the book.
You can't fix stupid.
Girl, or get yourself tested for like being illiterate, because what they were doing in 1984 is kind of the opposite of having more free speech. And if you don't know that, I think the book may have gone over your head a little bit, like, because another take here that is just almost impressively the opposite of reality. Like takes some doing to be off the mark by that much. So in this next post, there's been a lot of discourse online lately about Instacart, which is this app where people get someone to do their grocery shopping for them and deliver it, and how people want women as their Instacart shoppers, because when they get men, they say it always comes out wrong or whatever. And somebody wrote, "Yes, my Instacart shopper is a woman," in a post online, clearly happy about this fact. And somebody quote tweeted it and said, "When the slave I rented for 30 minutes is finally a woman," then a cheering emoji. Clearly like mocking this person and suggesting that they're doing something unethical almost to the point of slavery by hiring an Instacart shopper. And like that might be the most Delulu take I've seen in this whole list that we've gone through today, because last time I checked, nobody's forced to be an Instacart shopper. It's one of like hundreds and thousands of different jobs people could choose from that pay a similar amount and don't really require education or training. And then it's kind of actually important to the definition of a slave. And words do in fact have definitions and meanings, no matter how hard people are trying to erode them lately, that slaves aren't voluntary or paid. And so the situation you're responding to is actually the opposite of slavery, but go off, I guess. I mean, I think we have an epidemic on the internet, but in American society more broadly, of people who've genuinely lost touch with reality. Like, I don't know what they're smoking. I don't know if it's a failure of the education system, or I don't know if it's some sort of willful ignorance, but it's a real problem and a threat to democracy in the sense that like this person's vote counts the same as mine. That's bleak. Like, I don't know what else to say. That's bleak. America might be cooked if these posts are anything to go by, but also they might just be crazy people on the internet. What do you think? Which one of these do you think was the worst take, the most unhinged, the most Delulu? Do let me know in the comments. And also let me know if you enjoy this style of content. I'm trying something different. Do hit that like button and make sure subscribed if you aren't yet before you go. And we'll talk again soon.